Anthony Joshua retains his IBF heavyweight world title with a third round TKO victory over Eric Molina. If I had to describe this fight in one word, it would be pathetic. I mean, look, I don't want to be too critical of Anthony Joshua's performance. I can be critical of his selection of opponent, but as far as his performance, he did a much better job on Eric Molina than Deontay Wilder did, for example. But Deontay Wilder, when he fought Eric Molina, Molina seemed to show a lot more ambition than he showed in this fight against Joshua. Molina's whole demeanor in the build-up to this fight was of a man who just came for a payday. I saw him in an IFL TV interview with Shannon Briggs, and Shannon Briggs said, what's going to happen in the fight? Or I think Coogan or whoever was interviewing said, what's going to happen in the fight? And Eric Molina said, oh, it's going to be a great fight. I mean, you're supposed to say you're going to win if you really have come to win. And Briggs said, are you going to win the fight? And Molina looked unsure and said, yeah, I'm going to win the fight. At that, to me right there, sent alarm bells ringing, and I had to throw a red flag on that right there. Molina came with literally no ambition. He didn't try at all in the 3 rounds he was in there, or 2.5 rounds. He did literally nothing. He tried to sling a couple of looping right hands, wait for an opportunity maybe for Joshua to overextend himself, but when he got cracked in the 3rd round and dropped, he looked as though he weren't even going to get up. And he didn't look particularly, he was hurt obviously, but he looked like he could have got up a lot quicker than he did. But he just sat there like, why am I even going to get up? He eventually did. And when he did, he took a few more shots and referee waved it off. Pathetic, really, spectacle that as a headline. And there were some good fights on the undercard, don't get it twisted. Jose Burton versus Frank Buglioni was a good fight. Dylan White versus Derek Chisora was a good fight. Yafai's victory over Conception was a good fight. So there were good fights on the card. The main event, I mean, going into the fight, very few people were excited for the main event. Most people felt that it was going to be a blowout. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. I, all along, was saying that I'd prefer David Price to fight Anthony Joshua than Eric Molina. And I think David Price would have been a lot more dangerous. I think he would have been a lot more ambitious than Eric Molina. He still might have got knocked out, don't get it twisted. But I think he would have been a lot more dangerous, and he would have tried a lot more than Molina did. Molina just came to survive. And David Price would have had more tools. Now, don't get it confused here. I'm not saying that David Price should have been the prime candidate, but out of Eddie Hearn's shortlist, on which David Price was one of the names, there was Price, there was Molina, and there was somebody else. And I said, if it's out of Price and Molina, I'd rather Joshua fight Price. Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if he didn't fight either of them and he fought somebody better than any of those guys. But, you know, that's the list that Eddie Hearn was coming out with in the final period before he announced an opponent. So it was what it was. Pathetic spectacle. I guess the casual fans were happy to see AJ bowl over another person who came with no ambition. It was what it was. Is this enough preparation for Anthony Joshua to go in and fight Vladimir Klitschko, even though Klitschko is over the hill, even though he will have been out of the ring for a very long time, even though his confidence might not have been, might not be at the highest? Is Joshua still ready for Klitschko? Even a faded Klitschko? He was extremely cautious, by the way, Joshua, here in the first couple of rounds. Some people might think that he was maybe carrying Eric Molina to give the fans at least a couple of rounds of action. But I tend to think that he was just being very, very cautious, and he didn't want to get caught with anything, particularly because he had people like David Haye and Vladimir Klitschko at ringside. So he didn't want to even make any mistakes at all. I think that's what it was. He was conscious about who was watching him. And that made him very cautious. Is he going to be that cautious against Klitschko? If he is, you would imagine that Klitschko will benefit from a cautious fight, because Klitschko is the master of cautious fights. I know he didn't benefit against Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury is very lanky, very tall, much longer arms than Klitschko, and he was able to move around on the outside. Can you imagine Joshua pulling off certain, similar tactics against Klitschko? I can't. So if it's going to be two big cautious guys in the middle of the ring trading jabs, you have to figure that Vladimir Klitschko would come out on top in a situation like that, because I think he's got a better jab than Anthony Joshua. I think he's got a better leaping left hook than Joshua. Yeah, Joshua may have the quicker hands and quicker feet at this stage. Maybe he's the physically stronger on the inside. I don't know. Joshua really is a machine. But still, I see that as a very, very dangerous fight for Anthony Joshua, the Klitschko fight. A fight that he could easily lose if he puts one foot wrong. So the Molina preparation, not so sure about. But I guess we'll find out if the fight actually happens. I think they're talking about April, is it? April, March? They're talking about the Klitschko-Joshua fight. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get a formal announcement in the next few days about the Joshua Klitschko fight. So drop your comments in the comment section below. What did you think about the performance? What did you think about the fight, if you can even call it a fight? And again, you do have to give Joshua credit for the fact that he took out Molina far quicker and far easier than Deontay Wilder did. But again, I have to reiterate, the Molina that fought Wilder seemed to have a lot more ambition than this version. This version just turned up for a payday and nothing else. Then again, Wilder gave Molina a lot more things to exploit than Joshua did. Wilder makes a lot more mistakes than Joshua in general. So anyway, let me know how you feel, people. It's your boy Hartman. I'm out.